You're listening to the Fitzrock Podcast, interviews where we explore the shifts and transitions of life. Here are your hosts, Keith Rock and Don Fitzsimmons. Hi, everybody. Today we are so excited to have Keith Custer with us. Keith has started a business, and probably the best way for me to describe it is to read its mission. This is the Ripple, is what it's called. And their mission is to promote faith, cure disease, improve disaster relief, reduce crime, improve quality of life, and grow faith in humanity while providing things people need at prices they can appreciate. So not much there. Easy job. Keith, we are so glad you're here and excited to hear about what you're doing. Welcome.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I'll help kind of flesh that whole statement out, because I understand that's a pretty lofty goal, but I can assure you there's some strategy behind it. Many hands can make that, even that heavy of a load, light. But Keith, I think you had a question you were going to start off with, or was that where we're at?
Yeah, that's it. So when I was talking with you the other day, the thing that stood out to me, and we kind of talked about that, was like all these different things that you're involved with have a lot to do with leaving a legacy. And we're going to explore that, I think, today. So give us some of your thoughts about that.
Leaving a legacy is something that, honestly, I just kind of had always avoided, just because it sounded above me. It sounded like something that rich people do, something that highly educated scholars and world influencers do. And that's not the cloth I'm cut from. I'm a blue collar guy. My dad was a mechanic and my mom worked at Hallmark for 25 years. And, us kind of people don't leave legacies, right? And, where I grew up, unfortunately, a lot of the culture was just that, you don't, I hate to say that everybody I grew up with was like, oh, who gives a damn what they think, just, handle your business type mentality. But as I really started kind of fleshing out, legacies and hearing about them in Sunday services and just seeing, the extreme amount of content that you can find on YouTube and social media, if you're following the right people, you can see that it's actually designed for, it's a little bit more suitable for the people that don't think that they can leave one, because it is something very simple. It's actually so simple that if you had to break out some steps, really the first step is to realize that no matter what, you're going to leave a legacy, either positive or negative. So, really the very first step that everybody has to realize is you're leaving a legacy. Just what kind of a legacy are you leaving? Are you unconsciously passing down to your children, poor money management habits or negativity or limitations on how high of a ladder you can climb? Or, are we telling them that you can be whatever you want to be if you can help out enough people, or if you can take the right classes, or if you can shed the right mind frames? Those are legacies that we're always going to be leaving behind. So as far as, my take, if anybody hears this, it's really for the people that think, that's not something that's up my alley. I really don't care what people think about me, because that is a legacy that will be left. And unfortunately, I feel like it has been left on a lot of people, generation after generation. And part of the legacy that I'm leaving right now, for my two boys and for my wife, is just that, the world is full of blessings with your name on it. You just have to go out and show up. They say the best ability is availability. Go get your blessings. And sometimes, actually a lot of times, that blessing is being able to bless others. Such a powerful feeling, being able to do that and to know that you're needed, to know that you're wanted, to know that you made a difference. That in itself is something that you can build a legacy on.
So if I take a look at my life and I say to myself, I am not at all happy with the legacy that I'm leaving right now, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to turn this around. I don't have the slightest clue what I want my legacy to be. What would you say the first step might be?
Well, are you looking at my notes? You really teed that up perfectly.
I'm not, I promise.
Oh, number two, the thing to do is to realize what you want your legacy to be. I was having a conversation with a gal just a couple hours ago at a networking event, and she lost her job with the pandemic, and she'd been a project manager for a long, long time. And I was showing her some tricks on LinkedIn to get more exposure and how to put herself out there a little more effectively without have to hire a headhunter and be recruited. But then somewhere in the conversation, she mentioned, well, I really like to work with wood. And that's what I would love to do. And I hope it didn't come across rude, but I just had to look at her and say, well, why the hell aren't you doing that? If that's what you love to do, your love will come through that. And then we've all worked with people that like their job and all with people that hate their job. And at the end of the day, the guy that hates his job, no matter how much more education or just ability he's got, heart trumps that all the time. So do what you love. As soon as we understand that we are going to leave a legacy of some sort, that's when we can really begin to create it and manifest that legacy. There's no legacy that gets left by accident. So if we are not sure where we want to take it, we have to outline it. We have to not leave anything by accident. We almost have to, like a will of sorts, outline the values and the morals and the perpetual efforts that you would like to see continued once you're gone. And that is really not as difficult as a lot of people may think that it is, because it's you. You get to write the script. You're the author of this movie. So if you don't like the way life is going right now, it's probably because you're letting somebody else direct it. It's not to say that you don't take direction from your bosses and superiors and sometimes from your situation. Sometimes we have to ebb and flow in directions we may not want to go through. But all in all, you have the ability to change that story today. So if anybody is wondering, how to realize what they want their legacy to be, it's simple. You sit in a quiet room and you ask yourself, what do you want to do? Not what did your parents want you to do, not what you think would make your kids happy, not what when you pass away, or people, no one's going to remember what kind of a car you drove. No one's going to remember where your address was. A few people will, but by and large, those aren't the people that are going to be looking after your legacy anyway. The legacy you want to leave, that's the story that stays once you're gone. So write that out. Almost, I did an exercise in a business club. I'd encourage everybody to do, and it's write your own obituary. If you had to write your obituary, what would you want it to say? And it was one of the most powerful things I ever did. I almost got moved to tears picturing, my loved ones in the funeral home, the burial. What's the weather going to be like? What's my family going to do with all the things? Are they going to argue over some of my belongings? Just the sheer emotion that comes from that situation, and you actually being able to write it, and you start to realize that you really can write it. You really are holding the pen on your own obituary. And I think, to really drive that home, that's an exercise I would have anybody struggling with what they want their legacy to be. Go write their own obituary, and then I think the answer to that question will come a lot more clearly.
And I think a lot of people, if they get to that step and they say, okay, well, this is what I really want my legacy, immediately are hit with doubts. I don't have what it takes. Nobody will care. Nobody will give me a chance. How about overcoming those? Do you have any ideas?
Yes, I do. As we know, leaving a legacy is what we leave behind in the past, right? But in order to deliver a legacy, you have to focus on the future of it. So you focus on the future of your legacy by working it daily while you're leaving that legacy in the past. So every single day, you're leaving a little breadcrumb, a small item. If we just get a little bit better every single day, then it makes a difference, no matter how small it is. The sooner that we realize the far-reaching effects of our actions, the sooner we'll realize that there are no small things. So if anybody is getting a little bit down on themselves, very easy to do. I've had to pull myself out of quite a few slumps this year just because it's been very doom and gloomy. Well, what you do is you start off with the easy wins. You wake up, you make your bed, you brush your teeth, you shave, you walk out, putting your best foot forward. There you got a few wins before you even left the house. Maybe if you're struggling to get your mind right, turn on some motivational stuff. Surround yourself, plant yourself in fertile soil. A lot of times people wonder why they're not getting any growth. Well, it's because you're planted in sand. You need to fertilize your soil. We would never wonder why our grass isn't growing nice and clean and pure if we're never watering it. And, every dog in the neighborhood poops and pees on it. We're going to know what's going on, right? Well, a lot of times we're allowing people to poop and pee on our, ideas and attitudes, and we need to be fertilizing ourselves through that. So if you're struggling with that, change your soil. Get yourself around some positivity so then you can thrive. And it can be something that small to just change a very little item, because good intentions will not leave a legacy. It just won't happen. You have to, day by day, go out and do something and then start including others in it. And you will start to see that compound and start to build that momentum. What they say in order for, they don't say it, it's the formula for momentum is mass times velocity, right? We can work as hard as we want towards something that we want and as fast as we want, but if we don't have that mass behind it, we're not going to build up momentum. We're not going to make an impact. So back to the environment, back to the soil, make sure that you're including like-minded people in initiatives that you want to do. Make sure to join other people's initiatives and help them build their legacy. The tables get stronger the more legs you put on it. So if we can do those sorts of things, it makes you start to see you are worth it. When you're seeing other people achieve their goals, you start to realize, hey, I deserve it too. But if you start to see other people failing and everyone around you is failing, you start to think, well, that's probably what I deserve as well. At the end of the day, we're all looking at something that's coming. And sometimes just to get to not fear that, we just have to turn around. Just focus on whatever you focus on is going to be your reality.
Yeah, I love this because it not only talks about what I put into my head and my ears, what I listen to, but also the importance of community and the importance of making sure you surround yourself with people who are like-minded in your goal.
I absolutely love what you're saying. I also believe, like, if you have some sort of your own personal vision statement that can help, or personal thoughts about who you are, like you might say, I'm brave, or I'm worthy, or whatever things come to mind for you. Because when you're not feeling that way, you can remind yourself that that's who you really are. And I find that can be helpful. So some of the things you were telling me about that you're actually doing now, I was thinking, wow, that could be just overwhelming, and how hard it could be to put together. So I'm assuming you do a lot of the things that you're talking about. But tell us, how do you create all that momentum to do? Tell us a brief snapshot of some of the things you're doing.
Well, I really believe kind of what I left off with the last go around about sharing the legacy is so important. One thing that I make a major point of to do is to network a ton, and ideally be selective about who I'm networking with. And to take it even another step further is to not be bashful to share what I'm about and what I'm going to do. What happens when I share that is that people can then be on the lookout for connections that may be able to help me out. They may be able to also hold me accountable. If they see me doing something that 2 weeks late before I said that I didn't want to be doing or that didn't match up with what the legacy I wanted to leave, having those accountability partners has been huge. It's something that I really look forward to, is spending time with other people who have just different perspectives and different experiences, so that I can begin to progress. Because a lot of times, what's Warren Buffett say? You're all going to learn from a failure, but you don't have to learn from your own failure, right? So if we see somebody else's failure, we can sit and talk with them, and they can tell you what they did wrong. We might just save ourselves 5 years. So that's one thing that I've really been doing a ton of. Thank God right now we've got 27 charities on board with our organization. So as far as, back to the mission statement about all of the, massive initiatives that we're going to be taking on, I want to be very clear. We will accomplish those things, but it won't be Keith Custer by himself. This success story will not be written by me. It will be written by many, many goodwill, servant-minded individuals who want to make a difference. So as far as reducing crime, we're working with some youth centers. The Ripple LLC is actually switching over to 501c3 to help build sports courts, basketball courts located on the property of or next to churches and youth centers, so we can help reduce crime. We're working with a lot of mental health nonprofits, which has been a massive has seen a massive influx of clientele this year with the pandemic. Working with a lot of women's shelters, Special Olympics, animal shelters. So the things that were on that mission statement, all we are doing is trying to find new cups for people to be able to pour from to help out those nonprofits. And the way that we're providing these cups is by people that want to buy and sell items and services just like they always do on the Craigslist, Facebook marketplaces, and so on. You do those on the ripple.net. The only difference is 94% of the proceeds go to the charity that you select as the seller. So now the people that maybe don't have enough money to stroke a check, or maybe the pandemic's got them worried about volunteering and they don't want to go and be in a room with a lot of people, traditionally that's all that you could really do to give. Well, now you can sell the old crib or bicycle or go-kart or whatever you have that you don't necessarily need the money for, and you can somewhat leave your legacy by doing this, by paying that blessing forward. And I don't believe that blessings should stop with us. We see a lot of things on trash day that look pretty nice that people, once they're done with, they just throw away. Well, there's a lot of families in our community that could be blessed by those things. And there's a massive blessing that happens when you do help somebody else out. It can really lift up your spirits when a lot of people are struggling with depression and just the way things have been going. We start to look down and in. We really need to look up and out. And as soon as everybody can lift their head up and start looking out for each other, it's a beautiful world. So it's just a small tweak that we need to do. But I do foresee the Ripple.net helping a lot of people to make that difference much more easier.
How long has the Ripple.net been around?
Marking our second year. So we've this is actually the end of our second year, so going into our third year.
That's great. Do you have something that someone has sold that just was really interesting to you?
Well, yeah, we get a few. This is just such a heartwarming story. I've had a few. We've actually had quite a few. But there's a woman that I don't know her financial situation, but I'm assuming that she was not living on a yacht on the beach somewhere. She wanted to give back to her church, and she had posted some cross-stitched. They were these little Bo Peep cross-stitched pillowcases for $2. We've had plenty of big items sell on there, but that one really touched me because this woman thought enough of the process and the mission here to put something, no matter how big it was, like we were talking earlier, the small steps. Now, typically we don't want a ton of $2 items sold on our site. Obviously, we want to generate as much money for charities as we can, but for that, and I don't know why I'm forgetting the scripture that says, to the least will receive the most. She gave the most on that day, in my opinion.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. I've had so many people that have all sorts of things. I've had people willing to sell vehicles, and people that were liquidating their businesses and had tens of thousands of dollars worth of furniture. And they just said, you just have to come pick it up. We don't have time to mess with it. And it's like, oh, time to mess with it. You realize that this money is going to charity, and you're basically saying you don't have time to help feed homeless people. You don't have time to help adults with developmental disabilities. And I was like, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. But that is kind of how I was thinking about it. And for this elderly woman who was not very tech savvy to go and post that, even though it was for $2, that meant the most to me. That she would go out and do it because she believed in helping out other people and making a difference however you could. And that one always sticks with me.
So previous to this, were you in nonprofit world, or were you in the regular world, I guess to say, where you're making money at business?
Yeah, so I worked in a few different areas, primarily in let's not rush to any conclusions, because the car business is one that definitely has some negative connotations, but it's something that I really cut my teeth on from a moral aspect, and to realize that if you want to be successful, you can be successful and respected. A lot of people think that you have to make a choice there, and that's not the case. A gentleman that I worked for really helped me to understand how to manage sales teams and how to manage clientele outside of the parameters of what, say, a warranty says or what a contract says, and how to really be servant-minded while you're running a business and the benefits that will come from that. So I spent about 13 years in the car business, and it was one of the most rewarding jobs I can imagine, being able to help people who otherwise would be getting repossessed, otherwise would be making a decision to make their car payment or keep their lights on or to provide groceries, really getting down to a human level with our clientele and understanding people don't just choose to not pay their bills. People don't just choose to underachieve. There's a reason. Maybe somebody in their family got into some legal trouble. Maybe someone's got some extreme disabilities that require a lot of health attention, and they don't have insurance. And that's where their entire life earnings has went to. And they had to not pay a few people along the way. Getting to know people on that level was one of the most eye-opening experiences, to realize that everybody needs an advocate. Everybody needs somebody that, no matter how well they know each other, that they will go to bat for them and realize that, hey, we weren't running a charity. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that we were doing something that deserves more recognition than what it does. But at the end of the day, being in that situation where you have to make a decision, did you turn your back on their problems, or did you at least speak to them about those problems and at least take the time, which actually can pay dividends, to just let somebody know that you care enough? Or did you step up and do something to make a difference, to make a realistic improvement on their situation? And I loved the job, but I just felt that I could do more. And, I wanted to take a leap of faith, and, prayed on this and sat down with my wife and started connecting some dots on building this platform. And this is going to be a tall ladder to climb, but we're getting there. We're going to make a difference. But again, it's not going to be anything I can take credit for. It'll be a lot of good people who want to make a difference. We've got plenty of room for them. We just need to get them on the site and figure out what a better way to give, which is our slogan, is all about.
So you obviously, like, if you're in the business world of some kind, still helping people, but then you step into this world, which there's very few people that ever go into this world to make money, because very few people make money at nonprofits. So what was the thinking doing that?
Well, sometimes when you just see problems enough times and you start to realize nobody else is going to fix this and you feel like you can fix it, like Don, I was telling Alan, our friend Alan Little the other day, if his house was on fire and I knew that I could go put it out, now, I know how to run a hose, I know how to put water on a flame. If I saw that and I decided not to go put that fire out, I couldn't live with myself. At that point, money wouldn't come into play on that decision. There's more currencies than just money. I believe that love and compassion can be massive motivators. And, it has been. I've made the least money I've made in my adult life by far, but the connections that I've made, the experiences that I've got to get, money couldn't even buy. So am I poor or am I rich? It just depends on what, we value. And I really do feel that, the sooner we start to value each other, we can all be rich. That's the facts right there, because I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money. I wouldn't trade places with them.
Have you always been a guy who valued love and compassion over money, or did you evolve into that?
Oh, I was a knucklehead. There was a lot of times, running and gunning. A lot of times it's just our options that we're presented with, I feel. I find myself reflecting back to when I was younger. My dad was in and out of jail and rehab, and my mom worked 2 jobs. And I had a lot of free time on my hands with not a lot of positive options to really go and do. So a lot of times, my friends would, hey, come do this thing with me. Okay, what time I'll be there. I would never turn down much. I was always looking to go and do something. Well, a lot of times those options were just negative. They were just putting me in risky situations that as I got older and more mature, I started to realize I can still have a good time doing other things and just finding better options, and once I started to realize that, started to get into church, started to, volunteer, and started to actually do a lot of research on what happens on a chemical level on your body when you do good things. There are massive dopamine and serotonin dumps when you help out other people. When we laugh, we do get some dopamine dumped into our system, which is what we all want to feel good, right? Well, it's just so interesting that to feel good goes hand in hand with doing the right thing. To be able to look in the mirror and not be critical of yourself, to know that you don't have to remember a bunch of lies because you just tell the truth all the time. Those are good feelings, So to answer your question, Don, sorry, I think I went down some rabbit holes there, but no, I'm a classic example of learning, from failure, and I've bumped my head quite a few times, but it led me to where I'm at, so I wouldn't have changed a thing. But yeah, I do feel like the road is different for every single person. What we have to realize, I think that road can be longer for some people and shorter for some people. I think it's shorter for the people that start to pay attention at the signs. Once you're reading the signs on the highway, it's a lot easier to get to where you want to go. A lot of times, people are just driving by, scenery and, where's the sun at, where's the clouds, and I'm just kind of spitballing here. But if we read the signs, it's easy to see, who our friends are, who actually cares about us, what turns we should take. But again, that comes from looking out and up and paying attention. And it took me a while to learn that, but I feel like I've got it by now.
When you said that, I had the scene from Bruce Almighty when he's going down the highway and there's all these signs saying highway closed and turn around, and he keeps going and has a wreck and all that. But that's a great example of what you're talking about, is like we ignore the signs because we choose to often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many times, have we been trying to climb a wall when there's a door right there,
Ooh, I like that.
And it's the truth, and sometimes it just takes, I don't know, it just takes somebody to say something just slightly different. And then you realize, holy crap, this guy that's been bugging me, on these emails, or that always wants to talk to me at this networking event. You give him the time of day, and then you start to realize that he actually can open up some doors for you and can get you into a better position. And he really did just want to help you. So many people are so skeptical that everyone's out to get them. That, again, we kind of just get down into this protective position, and it's understandable. There's a lot of horror stories out there, but I feel like that's what we focus on. I do feel like there's much more good in the world than bad. We just need to celebrate it and start to realize that, I mean, heck, I didn't know you guys a week ago, but at this point, I feel like if Don or Keith, if you guys reached out to me on anything, I think I'd be happy to help you out however I could. And I feel like that would reciprocate. It's just, there's so much power there. The fact that we wouldn't harness it is just, it's mind blowing to me.
I think the thing that stands out with you talking today is we talked quite a bit about legacy. It's pretty obvious the great legacy that you're going to leave, and that it's going to continue with all of these things you're entering down. Is there anything else you want to add about legacy? And then also, if you could tell us about ways people that are listening can get a hold of you if they want to help.
Yeah, I'm very big on keeping things simple, and if somebody said it better than I can say it, I'll just let them have the credit for it. And I think you guys have probably heard this quote. It's nothing new, but Mark Twain, said, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher it. Oh, the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day that you realize why, right? If we're talking about leaving a legacy, get yourself in that dark room, remove all distractions, and just have the damn talk with yourself about why you're here. And if it's not being an accountant or an insurance agent or whatever, then change it. The pen is in your hand. Rewrite the story. The story's not finished. Tomorrow's not written. The day after's not written, but it's being written right now. So as far as everything we talked about with legacy, guys, I think I said my piece. If anybody wanted to speak, a little more privately, I'm all over social media. You can find me on most all my handles as Keith Custer. So on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. The site I would really encourage anybody who wants to make a difference is theripple.net. And if you are running a small business, if you have an influx of items that you want to get rid of to benefit a charity, if you're working for a charity, if you just want a good deal on something and want to save some money, that's what the site's designed to do. It really is designed to where no one person will benefit from it. Any action that's done on this site will have a multi-layered benefit, hence the name, The Ripple. We want to take one act of kindness and ripple it out. So if anybody is interested in talking more about it, again, just search Keith Custer on any of your favorite social medias, and I'd be happy to get a little more familiar with you.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today. Wow, it feels like I really do know you. I mean, in a real way. And the thing that stood out to me is when you talked about being a car salesman or being in the car business, you were talking about leaving a legacy doing that, even though you found down the road something else. So even if we find ourselves in those business type places, we can, like you did, leave a legacy by the way we do things. So that's what stood out from what you said.
It is. And legacies, again, they're going to be left, but it's up to us how we leave them. And just like laying bricks, that wall is a compilation of well-laid bricks. And same thing with the legacy. It can be something as small as those $2 pillowcases that I was talking about. I would bet my life that that's not the only good thing this woman has ever done. I would venture to guess that she's done thousands of things like this. And collectively, they may outweigh that one, $5,000, $10,000 check that somebody wrote when their business did good one year. It is it should be no secret what your legacy is. If you're not proud enough about the legacy you're leaving, it might be time to change it. Everybody, if there's one thing to be proud of, it should be about what the life you lived.
Absolutely, Keith. Thanks so much for being with us. Challenging words and a great model to follow after. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fitzrock Podcast. The music you are hearing is Swim with Wild Musical Instruments by Your My Muse. Copyright 2019 and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License. Until next time, have a fantastic life.